I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the Israeli army reveals plans to build a massive underground barrier on the border of Gaza. ILTV gets an inside look at a Likud rally to support the Israeli Prime Minister. And we hope you're hungry because we'll reveal the top 5 Israeli foods you just can't miss out on. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Well, the IDF does not mess around with threats to Israel's security, and now they're about to build a massive new barrier to combat Hamas's terror tunnels from Gaza. This enormous underground wall is the first ever of its kind in Israel. Hamas's terror tunnels have been a major threat to Israeli security and have been cited as one of the main causes of Israel's involvement in the most recent war with Gaza in 2014. But clearly, the IDF is taking their efforts to destroy the tunnels to a whole new level. For the past couple of months, Israel has set up concrete factories on the Gaza border to begin construction on a massive concrete wall deep under the ground around the Israel-Gaza border. The mission is clear: to search and destroy any Hamas tunnels that may be funneling terror into Israel. The wall is being outfitted with high-definition sensors to detect the presence of any tunnels that may be nearby, and will even extend to underwater areas of the border. The 3 billion shekel project has already contracted foreign workers from Spain, Moldova, and asylum seekers from Africa, and will be overseen by Israeli constructors for 24 hours a day, except on Shabbat, until the wall is finished. Even at the risk of angering Hamas into starting another war, the IDF clearly thinks this is a mission worth fighting for and promises that no matter what, the wall will be built at any cost. All right, well, last night's rally held by the Israeli Likud party to show support for the Israeli Prime Minister has been all over the news. Things, of course, have been heating up lately for Netanyahu, who is expected to receive criminal indictments any day now for an array of corruption charges. ILTV's Brett Allen Smith was at the rally yesterday, and he's here with us now. Now, Brett, how did it go?
Well, I think last night the Likud party got exactly what they wanted. They were hoping to get between maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people to come out to support the Prime Minister, clearly to demonstrate a big show of strength for a time where the Prime Minister looks like maybe confidences are kind of falling with all these scandals.
Absolutely, and we could see from the live videos you were doing yesterday that it was absolutely packed. So
yeah, packed to the
clearly
brim.
There were a lot of people that showed up.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's check out your report and see what everybody has to say.
As the doors of the Tel Aviv Convention Center opened, thousands of party members from across the country showed up to throw their support behind the Prime Minister. For an event the party spared no expense in throwing, putting at least 500,000 shekels into the night's party, it's clearly the exact response Likud's leaders were hoping for.
This is the atmosphere. Look at this, the gathering. Look at those people who came from the north, from the south, from the Druze villages, from Bedouin villages, from Arab villages, from cities, everywhere. And I came just directly from the Knesset to be here as a Knesset member and to support our Prime Minister.
This rally comes at a controversial time for the Prime Minister and his entire family. Just last week, police sealed a deal with Netanyahu's former chief of staff, obtaining key evidence in at least 2 corruption scandals against the Prime Minister. And his wife Sarah also faces criminal indictments for misusing government funds. But with the evening's festivities at full steam, these accusations seem to be the furthest thing from the minds of partygoers.
What do you think? Is there any truth to these charges of criminal?
Please don't get into this. I mean, it's propaganda. It's a lie, and it's so sad that because they cannot beat him in a campaign, they decided to go that way.
And as the party wore on, propaganda indeed became a familiar theme, not just from the average citizens, but from the politicians themselves.
It's become yellow media. It's not just fake news, it's full of lies. So I believe that what we need to do, we need to ignore them. They will say what they want to say, and we will show that the whole state of Israel is support us. Why? Because the truth is stronger than ever. And if in the end of the road, Prime Minister Netanyahu will need to come to court, I hope for him that he will clear his name. If he will not, he will pay like everyone. But we are not there yet.
This comes right after the latest polls revealing that nearly 2/3 of Israelis believe Netanyahu should step down from office if police decide to indict him, with only half of the country believing that he's innocent.
We are here right now, moments away from Prime Minister Netanyahu about to take the stage behind me. As you can see, the Likud party has spared no expense. We've talked with MKs, we've talked with the mayor of Jerusalem just now. Clearly, they've spared no expense to make tonight a big turn of show for the Prime Minister.
And as the Prime Minister finally took the stage, he brushed off the controversies with a smile and pointed his finger directly at the press.
התקשורת והשמאל שמשרת אותה, קשה להם לקבל את זה. אז הם מייצרים אין סוף פרשיות, אין סוף כתבות, אין סוף כותרות, כדי שאולי משהו יתפוס. אם לא צוללות, אז סיגרים. אם לא סיגרים, אז שיחות עם מול. אם לא תיק 1,000, אז תיק 2,000. אם לא 2,000, אז 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. הם דורשים מגורמי האכיפה, תנו לנו משהו, לא חשוב מה.
The Likud party seemed committed to ignoring the media's accusations of corruption, but clearly the night's festivities are precisely the headline they're hoping Israelis will read instead. For ILTV, this is Brett Allen-Smith.
The UN has just revealed that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has been dramatically cutting back aid for 6 citizens of Gaza who are hoping to get medical help. This is in a move to put pressure on Hamas. So I guess the possibility of a reconciliation deal between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas may not be as likely as we've thought. In the past, the Palestinian Authority has reserved money for Gazans hoping to get medical care outside of Gaza, where hospitals and facilities are severely lacking. But a report from the World Health Organization has now revealed that the PA has slashed these funds by nearly 80% since last year. In June of 2016, for example, almost 2,000 Gazans were given financial aid to travel for medical treatment. But in June of this year, less than 500 were allowed to take the trip. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is at its all-time worst, a situation that Abbas seems to be taking advantage of for his own political gain. The terror group Hamas seized control of the Gaza Strip from Abbas's government in 2007, and in an effort to force Hamas into a deal, the Palestinian president has been cutting aid to Gaza. First, it was cutting money for power plants, plunging Gaza into an energy crisis, which is still ongoing. And now it's clearly using medical care as a political weapon. The UN is condemning Abbas for slowing proper medical care at the very least, but the Palestinian Authority is denying that anything's changed in their policy. Unfortunately, it's the average citizens of Gaza who are caught in the middle. The IDF is clearly ramping up its efforts to deter would-be terrorists. Just this morning, Israeli forces have demolished the homes of 4 Palestinian terrorists who were involved in the killing of border guards and soldiers. Now they're setting their sights on 2 terror tunnels that Hamas is building underneath civilian apartments. The head of the IDF Southern Command is now threatening to blow up the apartments if Hamas strikes up another conflict with Israel. The IDF is condemning Hamas for operating in a civilian arena and under the cover of a civilian population. It's nothing new for Hamas to be operating behind the cover of civilians, but the fact that the IDF is now considering these apartments to be military targets shows how seriously they're taking things. This comes just as IDF soldiers destroyed the homes of 4 Palestinian terrorists, 3 of whom stabbed and murdered a female IDF soldier in Jerusalem last month. The 4th murdered a soldier in a car ramming attack. This is part of a controversial Israeli policy that aims to deter future terrorists by demolishing the homes of their families, demonstrating that terror will not be tolerated in any form. These efforts, along with today's latest news that the IDF is building a massive underground barrier beneath the Israeli-Gaza border, are clear proof that Israel is willing to stop terror by any and all means necessary. The IDF is arguably the most important organization in the modern state of Israel, but every year hundreds, if not thousands, of immigrant-born Israelis who would otherwise be huge assets to the IDF fall into basic roles beneath their abilities or avoid the draft altogether. Well, joining me now from an incredible all-girls military prep school in Migdal HaEmek near Nazareth is Anat Steiner, the director of the Israel Elite Women's Leadership Program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us a little bit about this prep program.
Well, we are dealing with 30 groups of 30 girls that came all over the country, especially from peripheral neighborhood. Girls that they are immigrants or new immigrants or the parents or second generation of immigrants, and they want to do meaningful service army, but they don't have the skills or doesn't know to get to those.
Now, how many participants do you have joining this program?
30 girls, women, young women every year, and it's a program for 10 months. So when they came to the examine to the army, usually they have no good marks because they doesn't have any example around the neighborhood, family or someone to explain
the the access to the needs to learn that you need to get those good grades.
In 10 months, we actually got those girls from survivors to leadership. And we're doing it because of the philosophy of Derech Kfar, which is an education organization that has its own philosophy and dealing with about 30 communities around the country.
So how, what kind of impact would you say this has on how the girls integrate into the army afterwards, as opposed to women from the same demographics, the same backgrounds who aren't able to go into this program?
Because I think the amazing things that happens with those young women, they learn about their own identity. They found out what traditional community they came from, the Ethiopian traditional. They feel part of the Israeli community, which society, which they didn't feel like before, and they know they have the talent
to succeed.
To succeed. They learn about themselves, about their ability, about their traditional. They dare to do things, and they find out that with hard work you can get whatever you want.
And also the confidence, that's one of the main things.
That's the main thing.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in. It seems like you guys are really leading an incredible program.
Thank you.
All right, now yet another incredible discovery has been made in Israel. Excavations in the Galilee have just revealed a 2,000-year-old production center where chalkstone vessels were being made. The ancient site was uncovered as construction work was being carried out at a municipal sports center in the Arab village of Reina.
You can see here very clearly the signs of quarrying on the ceiling, on the walls as well. We can see blocks of stone that have begun to be carved out. These would have become, eventually, stone vessels.
The fact that the Jewish people were using stone vessels for the sake of purity actually appears in the New Testament. In the book of John, there's even an account of Jesus going to a Jewish wedding with his mother Mary in the Galilee. There, wine was set out for the wedding feast, and when it ran out, Jesus' mother told him to do something about it.
Jesus said that they should bring 6 special jars, stone jars, according to the purification rites of the Jewish people. And these stone jars were full of water, and the water turned into wine. And it was a result of the water turning to wine that people began to appreciate the qualities of Jesus.
It turns out it's pretty common to find such vessels during excavations in villages from the ancient Roman period here in Israel.
In the houses, when you find the houses, you find a lot of pottery, and you always find remains of some stone vessels, because every Jewish household had these vessels.
So it's no surprise that finding the place where these very sacred antiques were manufactured is a big deal. This is the 4th workshop of its kind to have ever been found in Israel. An additional development center is currently being excavated just 1 kilometer from the site. Well, it's finally happened. The Silicon Valley giant Intel has closed its deal to buy the Israeli company Mobileye, and now they've just announced plans for a new fleet of self-driving cars. Intel has acquired Mobileye for a whopping $15 billion. The Israeli startup specializes in driver assistance systems and will allow Intel to roll out fully autonomous vehicles later this year for testing in Europe, Israel, and the United States. The fleet should have more than 100 vehicles, and by testing them in real-world conditions, Mobileye's co-founder Amnon Shashua is hoping to accelerate their development. Most major automakers have been stepping up their efforts to release self-driving cars because they could end up eliminating the majority of road accidents. All right, I'm so excited to introduce our next guest. Ezel Cohen is perhaps one of Israel's most well-known singers. He led Israel to a 1978 victory in the Eurovision contest with the hit Abani Bi, a song that I personally grew up with and love. So let's check it out before we dig in. All right, Ezel Cohen, I wish that you were wearing that outfit in here, but it's okay. I'll let you in here like this. So tell me, let's talk about your music career here in Israel. You've been performing ever since you were a little kid. So
exactly.
But you know, leading Israel to Eurovision Championship is a huge deal. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, but it started many, many years before. You know, I'm a son of an artist parents, and the whole family are singers, entertainers. And, you know, I got famous, like when I joined the army, when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
Was my first hit. And then I made the whole festivals of Israel. You see now, when I was a kid, you know, I took part, you know, in all the big festivals and all that. And in 1978, they decided the winner of the Israeli festival will represent Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest that in that time was a huge thing.
It still is a huge thing.
Yeah, not like it used to be. Anyway, it was a very important thing. And I was the one that the audience chose, and I became like the prince of the country. And just to take part in this program was like to be the prince of the nation. But
absolutely,
I won it, you know, and it was like a turning point, not just as a winning. It like changed the whole state of mind of the Israelis, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Israel didn't really have this name in music until this happened.
Exactly. We were like a small village that wanted so much to be part of the whole nations,
Yeah,
and
of course.
we made it big. And since then, it's you know, next year they celebrate 40 years of my winning.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable what happens with the song. It became a legend.
It became a legend. I mean,
I must tell you, excuse me, that I interrupt.
No, no, it's okay.
I went
it's okay.
out for a break for a few minutes out of the building. And in that moment, a guy passed with his small daughter, maybe she's 4 years old, and he stopped and he said, "You see the song that you just sang in the kid garden? This is the singer,
Which
you
is
know?"
crazy. Yeah, I mean, and I myself obviously was listening to this as a child. This is a song from the 1970s, so this is, I mean, a big deal.
It's a legend song.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today, because you moved a little on from music. I'm sure you're still doing it, but you're also doing something else, right?
After 50 years on stage, only stage, I decided that in my age I can fulfill, you know, different dreams that I had all my life. And I always, you know, played with art, you know, and I started with jewelry a few years ago. And and 4 years ago, I opened a shop, a store in Dizengoff Street in Tel Aviv. And when you visit Israel, come to me. It's Dizengoff 273.
And you're making all of this jewelry yourself.
With my 10 fingers, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy with this creation, you know, it's exciting me, and it's going very well, and I'm very happy with the whole thing, you know.
Well, I mean, I think for most people, it's just we're in awe that you can produce this type of music and also create this type of art and jewelry. So I know I myself am going to go check out your shop, and I hope viewers listen to where it is. Dizengoff.
273.
273.
You'll be my guest, darling.
I will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you all, and come to visit.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear some of your music before we finish this. And I love those outfits. Got to get my hands on some. All right, now this is an outlandish story. When you're surfing iTunes, you're probably not seeing a whole lot of Israeli folk music, but it turns out there is a place outside of the Holy Land where people just can't get enough Hebrew folk tunes. And it's probably the last place you'd expect, Japan. Okay, do you recognize that music? Think back to your Hebrew school days. You've got to remember this one. It's on the tip of your tongue. I know it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mayim Mayim, a simple little Israeli classic about water and, of course, known for the classic Mayim Mayim dance still used today. So, what the heck is it doing in my anime, you ask? Well, right around the time the US occupied Japan after World War II, America started cultural exchanges with the Japanese, and a man named Ricky Holden decided to teach Japan all of the latest folk hits from around the world. It doesn't look like Holden was Jewish, but as a world-traveled folk scholar, apparently he picked up Mayim Mayim in Israel just before heading to Japan. Clearly, the song and dance went over big with the kids because just a few generations later, as Japanese products started hitting the West, well, that's why you heard Mayim Mayim on your Game Boy. All right, I hope you're hungry because it's time for our top 5 with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Thanks, Natasha. For those who want to learn a thing or two about just how flavorful and downright delicious the food in the Holy Land is, this one's for you. I'm sure you've heard of the classics falafel, hummus, shakshuka, but I'm here to give you guys the top 5 real must-tries in Israel from an Israeli perspective. And number 1 is malabi. Whether it's summer or winter, this creamy pudding topped with sweet syrup and coconut shavings can be found anywhere at any time. The sweetness comes from the rose water used to prepare it, and it's the perfect dessert for kids and adults. So this next one's a bit confusing, but iced coffee and coffee iced are two completely different things here in Israel. Iced coffee is not your typical one. It comes out as a blended ice smoothie, and coffee ice is probably what you're asking about. But don't knock it till you try it, because the Israeli iced coffee is definitely worth it. So, speaking of complicated drink orders, due to the intense heat here in Israel, iced drinks are very common. So at number 3 is limonana. Nana is mint in Hebrew, making it mint lemonade. So if you ask for a nice limonana, remember, same rules apply as the coffee. It's a nice blended smoothie. Sabich is our number 4 must-try. This one's a traditional Jewish Iraqi sandwich consisting of a pita stuffed with fried eggplant, a hard-boiled egg, a little bit of trina, and some Israeli salad, and you have a meal that stuffs you till dinner. This may be last, but definitely my favorite. If you're visiting the Holy Land and added a few pounds, bulekas might be the reason why. Bulekas are baked, filled pastry made of phyllo dough and stuffed with cheese, potatoes, spinach, you name it, they make it. Bulekas are one of Israel's most popular snacks and can be found around every corner in most cities. Just come and try them. Stay tuned for our next top 5. Back to you, Natasha.
Enroll in eTeacher's online Hebrew courses and quickly discover that it creates the deepest connection to Israel that you could ever imagine.
All right, I don't know about you, but I'm almost always hungry. So today's word is ra'ev, which means hungry in Hebrew. For me personally, there's a very fine line between being hungry and angry, or as they say, hangry. But despite that, here's my first recommendation for you. Make sure you come to visit Israel ra'ev. From the shawarma to the falafel, there's no way you'll be able to maintain an empty stomach or, for that matter, a diet. Everything here is just too tasty. So embrace being ra'ev and accept the pounds you'll probably gain.
The weather is brought to you by international singer-songwriter Sabina. Make sure to check out her latest album, Purple Ribbons, and get updated for upcoming concerts.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a low of 78 or 26 degrees Celsius. Over the weekend, the temperatures are expected to rise slightly to around a height of 89 or 32 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.6 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.